¿Es mejor? Hello. Hello.
Buenos días.
Yeah, welcome.
It's like some kind of, like one of those very unpleasant things.
I think so. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good day, good evening to those who are connected with our special event today at the 80th anniversary of Pax Christi International. Thank you for coming. Welcome, everyone. We are here together to reflect, to celebrate, and to pray. Thank you, dear speakers, for accepting our invitation to this panel, The Role of Faith Organizations in the Path to Just Peace, and to those who will lead us at the moment of prayer and reflection, coming from our spirituality, Christian, ancestral, indigenous, Baha'i. A special greeting to the Pax Christi International co-president, Bishop Marc Stanger, coming from Strasbourg to this important gathering. For 80 years, Pax Christi International has been a peace, Catholic, and prophetic movement. Founded in Europe, now as a global movement, Pax Christi continues contributing to a more peaceful world. With a network of over 100 local organizations around the world, Pax Christi addresses the root causes of violent conflicts and their consequences, giving a voice to marginalized local communities in global discussions with decision-making bodies to find context-specific solutions. Pax Christi has a fundamental message. Only through nonviolence we can build a more peaceful world. The movement was born to reconcile two divided societies, Germany and France. Since then, Pax Christi International has been involved in virtually every major conflict, in dialogue with other Christians, Protestant, Orthodox, and others during the Cold War, in advocating dialogue and diplomacy, in seeking to mobilize Christians and other faith and civil society organizations, in promoting civic service for young people in what are now called the peripheries. And over the last 2 decades, by strengthening the capacity of communities in Latin America, Africa, and in Asia Pacific to analyze conflicts, contexts, transform conflicts, and engage in active nonviolence actions to build social cohesion and to defend their communities' rights in the face of injustice and exclusion. Today, in our long history, we honor those women and men, some of them martyrs, in the cause of peace and justice, who have printed their mark on our lives and inspired our actions as a worldwide movement. Today, we face many challenges to peace. The first challenge concerns geopolitical conflicts that fragmented world war, to which Pope Francis refers, which is causing serious humanitarian crises in Sudan, Gaza, Myanmar, DRC, Ukraine, and elsewhere. These crises challenge us all, including the multilateralism and its capacity to prevent or to protect. We campaign for the elimination of nuclear weapons and for a nuclear-free world. We support the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, raise awareness of the catastrophic humanitarian consequences of nuclear war, and work with other organizations to put pressure on the governments to take concrete steps towards disarmament. The second challenge to peace is the environmental degradation. For Pax Christi, there can be no peace without ecological justice. Pope Francis says in Laudate Deum, the reality is that a small, richer percentage of the planet pollutes more than the poorest 50% of the total world population, and that the per capita emissions of the richest countries are far greater than those of the poorest. We humans are part of an Earth community that must be healthy and just if we are to survive. There is an interconnection between war and preparation for war, environmental damage, climate change, and the scarcity of essential resources. The third challenge is the crisis of civilization, which is much more than an economic crisis or a concatenation of several development crises as traditionally considered. There is a crisis of ethical and cultural values. Fortunately, indigenous peoples, grassroots social movements, and peace builders around the world are resisting this steamroller with their own spirituality, cultural, and social values. Today, it is an important day to celebrate the gift of having Pope Francis amongst us, teaching us. We pray for him. In Fratelli Tutti, Pope Francis reminds us that there is still a chance to revive these values that are fundamental to the survival of humanity. A proposal for a world of fraternity and sorority, where all countries can be part of one great human family, appears to be a welcome challenge. Pope Francis has promoted a global ethic of nonviolence. He calls on the Church and the world to understand and adopt nonviolence as the way of Jesus and a powerful practice for building social peace. Current conflicts underline the urgency of such a paradigm shift. Pax Christi was born out of an initiative for reconciliation. Our spirituality is based on a belief in the absolute dignity and worth of every human being and the need of care for creation. Our spirituality and practice also link reconciliation and justice for victims, so reconciliation is at the heart of our mission. For Pax Christi International, nonviolence is at the heart of the gospel and a way to face the crisis of our time. It is a force for unity and reconciliation that mobilizes kindness, imagination, humility, courage, and tenderness. It is a healing response to the cries of the earth, the cries of the poor, and the cries for peace. It is essential to a Laudato Si future. Without hope, vision, and solidarity, neither the oppressed nor the oppressors can find a way out of violence, war, and the culture of death. Defending life, peace, and reconciliation, Pax Christi International will continue working as a movement with our members and allies. I'm Marta Inés Romero, Pax Christi International Secretary General. Thank you very much for your presence in person and virtual. And now, I'm opening the floor for our special panelists. So each of you have some minutes. It is 15 minutes. Julia? No, less than 15. Let's see, 10 minutes. And then if you have time, we can have a special conclusion. So I'll invite Tracy Martin, Director, Quaker Council of European Affairs. Tracy is director of the Quaker Council of European Affairs, which has been working on peace and social justice with the EU and other European institutions since 1979. Tracy was previously coordinator for peace and social witness at Woodbrook, a Quaker learning and research organization, and worked in international development for many years. So welcome, dear Tracy.
Thank you so much. Is that all right? Good. So first of all, thank you for inviting me to speak on this important topic, and congratulations to Pax Christi on your 80th birthday. Over the years, members of Pax Christi and Quakers have often stood together, taking non-violent action for peace and justice. We're fellow travellers on the path to just peace. The Religious Society of Friends, commonly called Quakers, are known as a peace church. And our first statement of this, what we call our peace testimony, was in 1661. In Advices and Queries, this little red book, which are offered to British Quakers for their reflection, number 31 reads, "We are called to live in the virtue of that life and power that takes away the occasion for all wars. Do you faithfully maintain our testimony that war and the preparation of war are inconsistent with the Spirit of Christ? Search out whatever in your own way of life may contain the seeds of war. Stand firm in our testimony, even when others commit or prepare to commit acts of violence, yet always remember that they too are children of God." Being a peace church doesn't mean that we're necessarily more well-equipped than people of other denominations and faiths to work for peace. For a start, we're very small in number, especially in Europe. But it does mean that many of us feel compelled to work for just peace, and we've been thinking about how best to do this for quite a long time. So we were asked about what the challenges are, and you've gone into some detail, but I'll just pose some questions. I'm not aiming to answer them all, but I think these are questions we need to ask ourselves. What do faith communities working for peace have to say when the talk is of rearming Europe? When countries are talking about reintroducing conscription, and when the understandable desire to support those being attacked in Ukraine makes people feel that military action is the only answer? How can we show that our commitment to peace is relevant in the world as it is now? What can we say and do that can contribute to peace and not spread the seeds of war? And most importantly, how do we work for peace and justice? How do we put the people who are being harmed on both sides of any conflict at the forefront? Address moral wrongs, acknowledge crimes and calls for reparation. How do we do this without sowing more seeds of war? And about the strengths of faith organizations, I'm just going to mention two that are particularly pertinent to Quakers, but I think to people of all faiths. So faith organizations, and I use organizations and communities because Quakers don't, or we say we don't have leaders, so it's difficult to speak about them. So faith organizations and communities can take the long view. Yes, we need to respond to violent conflict here and now. We need to provide shelter and safety to those affected and speak out against injustice. But we're not politicians looking towards the next election. We know that peace is not an end, but a practice. It's the practice of peace that prevents war. So interfaith dialogue, building trust between communities, learning and sharing ways to address conflict non-violently, peace education in our schools, accompanying peace builders financially, spiritually, and physically. This is the real work. The work of prevention, which can rarely be measured, and the work of healing that must carry on for generations, long after the donors and the big powers have lost interest, if they were ever interested in the first place. Cecil Nyiramana, a Quaker peace builder from Rwanda, talked about this light that pushes me to do the work. In her case, bringing prisoners' wives and widows of people who were killed together after the Rwandan genocide. Our faith helps us keep faith in peace, even when it seems impossible. And we must work for positive peace that addresses violence in all its forms, visible and invisible. This is people-to-people work, faith-to-faith work. I think Europe forgets that for most people in the world, faith is central to their lives. Their faith communities establish the norms by which they live. Listening to, supporting and funding faith organisations and communities working for peace in any country, but particularly those where colonialism, exploitation and extractivism has caused fractures that will take generations to be healed, is vital and should not be at the mercy of short-term political gains. The second strength is what we Quakers called seeing that of God in everyone. It's the hardest thing that my faith asks me to do. I have a Quaker friend who writes letters to Putin. Not angry letters, but letters to try to reach that of God, some spark of goodness in him. Is she mad? Perhaps. But if there's the possibility, why not try? There are some who would say that makes her a Putin sympathizer. But how can people change if we do not engage with them? In order to make sense of what's happening to them, those who are attacked need to see the enemy as totally wrong, the devil, completely evil. Those who do the attacking need to have had it implanted in their brains, often through years of one-sided media, that the people they are attacking are inferior, dangerous, unworthy, not quite human. This is what makes conflict possible. This is what makes people willing to take up arms and kill another human being. It's not for us to condemn, it's for us to seek to understand. So we have to separate the violent actions of a government from the people who live in that country. We have to understand how nationalism and oppression has shaped them, how they've been damaged. We have to support those who, despite that, refuse to fight because of their beliefs, who are often ostracized, imprisoned, or forced to flee. And we must support those who are able to transcend this and transcend the hatred and work for peace. So as faith organisations and communities, I think we can offer alternatives to violence, provide opportunities for people to see the other as human. We must condemn the violent actions and the crimes. We must support perpetrators being held to account. And we must create pathways for understanding and for finding common ground. Many politicians frame the current conflicts primarily as security issues that can only be addressed by putting armed forces between us and them, and see justice as the complete humiliation of the enemy. But there cannot be a just peace if people continue to hate each other, if trauma is not addressed, if people affected are not involved in the peace process. I think faith organisations and leaders must not strive to be right or even righteous, but to always work for peace, always focus on removing the seeds of war from ourselves and from society. And this may mean we have to say things that are unpopular, that open us to the charge of being complicit with the enemy, that make us seem too idealistic. But we're called to speak out because we are, in Quaker speak, in the virtue of that life and power that takes away the occasion of all war. This may be expressed differently in different religions, but can perhaps most simply be called love. Faith leaders, communities, organisations at their best, and we're not immune from hatred, egotism and desire, because faith is a practice, not a remedy. They must speak from and act from love. Our faith requires us, pushes us to speak for peace, positive peace. And this is what we bring to the journey, I think, to the path to just peace. It might not make us a comfortable companion, but it makes us a steadfast one, ready to support everyone to seek out and remove the seeds of war and sow the seeds of peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear Tracy. 9 minutes. That's perfect. I invite Elvis Ngwande, Executive Director. Elvis is Zambian and a member of the Congregation of the Missionaries of Africa, White Fathers. He's a lawyer with a master in international law, international relations, and peace studies. Currently serves as the Executive Secretary at the Africa-Europe Faith and Justice Network. He has a broad experience of legal practice. He's an advocate of the High Court for Zambia and a member of several international legal associations. He emphasizes justice and human rights as cornerstone of global community. Elvis is also a researcher in political science and law. He has a missionary experience from several African countries, Niger, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and Zambia. Thank you, dear Elvis. The floor is yours. 10 minutes.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and congratulations to Pax Christi for the 80th anniversary. I would like to build on where Trace stopped. So mine would be building on the theoretical framework that Trace has already set the ground. So I'll try to put my experience on that. I have a plethora of examples to give, like practice of faith-based actors in peace. Now, I would like to start with a conceptual framework of Johan Gatung, of positive peace. And then I meet this with the Jean 23, John the 23rd, when he called for global peace. And also at the back of the mind, I also put Pope Francis in Fratelli Tutti, when he's calling also for global peace and the one single humanity. Now, talking about one single humanity is what, for me, anchors the global peace. In the sense that if today I see somebody is trying to attack Julia, you know, so Julia is my little sister, I'll run to go and defend. So now, what makes Julia my little sister? You know, even if we are not born from the same mother, same father, is that we share that humanity. But then why would I justify when another person is attacking someone just because I don't recognize them? You know, so now, these are kind of issues that I've confronted as a lawyer in mob justice. Someone who did not know, actually, that the person they're attacking is his uncle. You know what? When they bring someone, they bring the accused person for the first time, that this is the accused person who committed murder or who committed a crime. For the first time, they are well dressed, they are in suit, then they look innocent, you know? And then after times, like let's say 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, they stay in prison, then they bring them back, and then they look very guilty because now they have become prisoners, and they don't take a shower properly, they look scruffy. Say, wow, yes, that one is guilt. Look at the demeanor, you know? So the same person who was totally innocent 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks later, they are very guilty. So it is that dehumanization that we take. We dehumanize the other person, we other them, we remove the humanity in them, we deny them the equal dignity, and we take away that humanity, and then we now have to say this one is not a human being anymore, is not in the same single family, we are going to attack them. Now, having set up that, I can't miss out connecting also with what we can call now the global ethic as portrayed by, what's his name again? He was a Swiss Catholic theologian, he's late now. I'm sure Philip knows that man. Hans Kuhn, yes, thank you very much. So Kuhn talks about the global ethic. So the question is, what unites us together in all these differences, we look at what unites us. Now, once we put together this, we are going to build on this slowly. Having talked about that, I would like now to show how faith and justice connect in practice. I would like to give you examples of what happened in South Africa's apartheid. So, the positive side is that there were religious actors who were trying to stop apartheid. That's a positive side. So, unlike my friend Trace, where she gave first the positives, then negatives later, I'll be giving them side by side. Yeah, so that you can be taking the main meal and the sweet course at the same time. Yeah. So, you find that there are some actors, religious actors, who are trying to stop apartheid, and they did a very good job. Christians, Muslims, and so forth. But then, there were also faith-based actors who promoted apartheid. They even created a church to say this church is for whites only, and this one is for blacks. And they tried to justify using the Bible. You know? So that is the challenge where faith has been instrumentalized, has been weaponized. And for people who were abused in the name of religion, it is difficult to tell them that religion can build just peace. Because other people have abused what is supposed to be sacred. Yeah. And then, we can also look at the example of Mozambique and Angola. The faith-based actors did a very good job in trying to stop the wars in Mozambique and Angola, because the Portuguese colonialism, that's why I mentioned Mozambique and Angola, the Portuguese colonialism was very categorical in the sense that the Catholic Church, I'm Catholic, and I'm not ashamed, but I'm not proud of that part of history where the church in Mozambique was like annexed into the local church of Portugal. You know, the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Portugal became the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Mozambique, de facto. You know, so other faith-based actors refused that, you know, to the extent that there was almost what you can call schism in the Catholic Church. Others started to start another Catholic Church because they said, we can't accept this. You know, so even during the time of liberation theology and so forth, Mozambique still there was a very strong resistance, because you find that people who were born even after me, who were born in the late 80s, still don't have their own proper names, African names. You find people who are called like Diago de Rosario. You find you find someone who is called the Santos de Rosario. You find that, am I talking to a Portuguese man or a Brazilian? You find this is a Mozambican as dark as me. Now you ask them, why don't you have an African name? Then they give you the beauty of the Catholic Church in Mozambique. You know? So, if you talk to such a person, if it turned against the Catholic Church, you can't blame them. Yeah. I'm not trying to forget the good deeds that our church has done in Africa, but I'm also trying to open our eyes to remember, like Thabo Mbeki in his speech where he says, I'm an African. He says, the scars that our people bear, they are a reminder of what should not be done to humankind. I know what it means when race is used to define who is human and who is subhuman. That's what Thabo Mbeki said. You know, Nelson Mandela, building on that, says it was difficult for him to find in his heart that he can go to church, because the churches were used to justify apartheid. Now, if we move on to the Democratic Republic of Congo, the faith-based actors have done a very good job in trying to stop the wars and conflicts. So there is what you call shadow diplomas, the silent diplomas, that is going on, and that can be very good for the Catholic Church and other faith-based actors. Now, I would like to connect what is happening in Congo, the diplomas happening, like with the diplomas of John the 23rd. Pope John the 23rd, when he wrote Pacem in Terris, the peace in the world, he made sure that he played a very big role in trying to de-escalate the nuclear threat between the Soviet Union and the USA, the Cuba crisis. Now, many people did not even know that he was doing that until he gave a speech. Today, the religious-based actors are doing so much to de-escalate the war in Congo, but then we don't see them. I know, because I've been involved, I bring high-profile bishops We go with Comese and other actors to the EU, and we try to talk to European members of parliament to see what they can do to stop the war in Congo. But then the bishops, or let's say the faith actors, don't want to come on TV because M23 would come after you. So what more can we do on that? I would like to give quick examples on what happened, like when I was in Niger. One time, the churches were burnt. I did a mission in Niger, and we were attacked. They burnt churches. One, it was when some authors in France wrote an article making a caricature of Prophet Muhammad, Sharia bidon, so they came and attacked Christians. For them, whenever Western world does something against Muslims, it's Christian. Another one was the innocence of Muslims. The video that was showing Prophet Muhammad as the abuser of children, they attacked us and they burnt our churches. But who came to our rescue? The Muslims again. You know? So what helped us there is that we had good relationships with Muslims. So the same Muslims of goodwill who would know that they would come and burn our churches, would come and signal that please run away, you are under a threat. And the final example is the most recent one was in Tanzania, where two kids, because like I mentioned, I like the way you mentioned multilateralism in this issue. So this one, I can say it's from the very ground. Two kids were playing, and one kid said, you know what, our God is very strong. I am a Christian and I'm like this. So the Muslim kid said, no, the Muslim God is stronger than the Christian God. You know what? The Bible, you can do anything you want. But the Quran, if you do something stupid, you can become a lizard. So this kid said, no, bring the Quran. So the Muslim kid brought the Quran, and then the Christian kid said, what do you want me to do? He said, okay, if you pee on the Quran, you become a lizard. The Christian kid dared, he peed on the Quran, he did not become a lizard. So the Muslim kid changed the story, said, no, he insulted us and he peed on the Quran. The whole neighborhood was on fire. So they called us as people who know someone. I don't want to call myself a specialist, who know how to mediate and so forth. So he did mediation, and the only solution was to take that kid and put him away in a certain protection. Up to now, they don't know the kid exists because there was a fatwa that was issued. In fatwa in the Islam culture, it means the kid has to face death penalty. And I stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elvis. Now, I invite Josiane Gauthier. Josiane is a Canadian lawyer with over 25 years of experience in international development and solidarity, with a strong focus on human rights, social justice, integral ecology, and faith-inspired advocacy work. She joined CITSE as Secretary General in 2017. Before this, Josiane led the public engagement, advocacy, and campaigns teams at Development and Peace, Caritas Canada, the Canadian member of CITSE, where she spent several years working on a broad array of issues in the field of international development and policy. Since joining CITSE, she has been actively involved in networks and actions focusing on climate change, justice, systemic change, and human rights, and representing the network in United Nations spaces on climate, biodiversity, and human rights. Welcome, dear Josephine. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I'm really grateful to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me and to be with these really wonderful speakers that I'm very eager to hear all. And I think we're really going to share some nice reflections. Hopefully, I'll be able to contribute to this reflection and to this exchange, which I think will be very rich. Of course, CITSE is not a peace organization per se. I don't think we would qualify ourselves that way, but I will endeavor to make connections between what we do and how we can contribute to peace, maybe all of us a little bit more. So I've taken it beyond the organization I represent. I find the timing of this reflection and gathering quite providential, given the state of the world. The world really needs this conversation right now, in the midst of all the violence and the noise and the ugly threats and the manipulated information, the lies. and all the orchestrated chaos, destabilization that's being put out there. And here we have an opportunity, we're given an opportunity by Pax Christi to slow down, to breathe, to reconnect with our faith and with our own humanity and with our own truth, with our truth. And obviously I'm going to be speaking from my own perspective, which is limited, and it's also inspired by my own life experience and the journey I have been on and shared with Sidse these past years. I think we often distinguish our work in development, in human rights, and ecological and social justice from the work on peace. We see these as specializations that are quite distinct, probably out of respect for the fact that it's different work and that takes a lot of skill and expertise to do the peace work. But I believe we need to challenge that idea a little bit more and challenge ourselves. The relationship or the interdependency truly between these different ideas and notions, and also the actions that are required, and our intentions and our lens will have to be adjusted more and more, especially in a context where peace is not only threatened as a state of being, but almost, or as a political reality, but almost as a principle. It's being questioned as though it doesn't have the value it once had. And so we're being invited to take a certain responsibility, to reframe our own language, to reframe our own work, I believe, connecting peace with integral ecology, peace with human rights work, peace with our human dignity and biodiversity work, peace with connection to cultural heritage and intercultural and intergenerational solidarity. We who are involved in human rights and in ecology work more often and in social justice work, we have to learn to intertwine our analysis and our efforts with those working for greater peace and work hand in hand. We can't let ourselves be intimidated by the enormity of the task. Peace is not ever achieved fully. I learned that from listening to Tracy a few times. It's an ongoing struggle and a practice, and it's an ongoing prayer and commitment. And I believe how we act in this world should be guided by our will to contribute, however we can, to building and protecting and cherishing peace. So what are the main challenges that we're facing as faith actors? And I appreciate the reference that Elvis made to the sins of the past and the ongoing challenge of faith actors to be truthful and reconcile with their not always constant contribution to peace. Being a Canadian, I'm fully aware of the role that the Canadian Church has played, Catholic and other, in not promoting peace, peace with the land, peace with the people, and there's a long work of reconciliation and forgiveness that needs to happen in these broken relationships with the earth and with others. And that brings us, of course, to the idea of Fratelli Tutti and Laudato Si, that everything being interconnected, our relationships with each other and with the earth are one and the same. And so that brings us to our integral ecology work, and I think that can help us to work for greater peace as climate activists, as social justice activists. It gives us an entry point for that reflection. So what are the challenges? The first one, I'm going to call it the social political climate, or the madness. It's creating a great deal of anxiety and unpredictability, loss of references of global world order. Of truth as we thought we understood it. Things that we thought we could count on as being our references are disappearing underneath us. And every day there's something new to destabilize us. So faith leaders and organizations are being distracted as well, are being pulled in so many directions to respond to that anxiety, to try to put out fires, and wondering how and when to act. So it's a total dismantling of our what we knew to be our mission, what we understood to be our mission. It's very disorienting, and that's a real struggle, and it's a real challenge for our work. And it creates distrust and doubt, self-doubt, doubt in others, doubt in their intentions. And this creates self-protection, and even for organizations, which become a little bit more closed in, a little more self-protective, we're losing our focus. And this is a real challenge, and forgetting what really matters and where we're meant to invest our energy. So we're forgetting the most vulnerable, and seeing ourselves as the most vulnerable. And this is a big challenge, this is a big problem and obstacle. And we're forgetting the planet and its needs in this moment of madness. What's the second big challenge that we're seeing as faith actors, but as people in general? The economic climate, or the unraveling of all our sense of certainty around what our security might be. And this creates a great deal of fear. And fear leads to hoarding and holding and protecting and not sharing. And it means cutting funding to organizations that are working for peace, that are working for justice and working for human rights. It's feeling that there's scarcity, and somehow we have to be cautious. And our fear, out of our fear, we're finding that we prefer to blind ourselves sometimes in order to comfort ourselves, to avoid the uncomfortable truths, to avoid that we're part of some of these uncomfortable truths. And this is taking us away from our collective responsibility towards each other and towards the earth. And so this is a huge challenge that we're seeing, and is creating more violence because it's a spiral of violent behavior. Obviously, the fear of war, the real fear of war, and mistrust of allies, arming up of countries, shifting resources to an economy of war, is creating lack of funding, is creating a lack of capacity. We're losing capacity from our organizations. We're losing opportunities to learn because we don't take the time anymore, because we're in fire mode. And we're not taking the time to listen to the communities that have reflections to share with us that we need to learn from. And the concentration of power and resources into the hands of very few means that there's a higher percentage of concentrated violence and systemic violence imposed upon the most vulnerable. The third huge obstacle or challenge I'm seeing is obviously what this does to society, to social relationships, and the isolation and the breakdown of solidarity that we're seeing, and very selfish and egotistical choices being made at individual and collective and societal, political and societal levels. Again, coming from fear, we're lacking courage. We're lacking courage. Everybody seems so afraid to lose what they have. Their comfort, their power, their influence, their funding. Everything makes us small and meek right now and isolated. And it reinforces the feeling of powerlessness. It's self-prophesizing and defeatism and anxiety. And unfortunately, this breaks down dialogue between peoples, between cultures, between communities. It shrinks the space for civil society to engage and to criticize and to critical thinking. There's no more healthy, respectful dialogue and thinking happening because we're so afraid to be in the same room with certain people. Fear of being attacked, fear of being judged, fear of being erased. So this is a vicious circle of closing in again. And this self-reliance, which is being promoted as some kind of a virtue, is actually a form of desolidarization and of isolation and self-interest. And it's taking us away from work in solidarity. And we're being pushed into extremes despite ourselves. So what can we do? What are our strengths? What can we offer as faith communities, despite all our limitations? Faith communities and faith organizations, we know who we are, or at least we're supposed to. Our faith gives us some rooting as individuals, as organizations. We have mission, and we know we're loved. We were created for love, so we're not alone. And this is meant to help us. We promote and we can model solidarity within our own organizations and within our work. We can promote and model listening and community. We can be that community for others, sharing and pooling together of resources and knowledge. Counterintuitively right now, we can share more and collaborate more instead of compete. And we can practice hope, which is so deeply needed. And with all the people despairing right now, we speak a lot about faith actors and their role in creating, communicating hope, but it's not an easy task. It's actually very difficult. And it's a choice, it's a daily practice and a daily choice to practice hope and to work for hope. Second opportunity, or I advantage we might have, tool we might have, is that we know what we're doing. We do have practice, we do have skills, we have expertise. Let's share it. We have social teachings as Catholics, we have all the other faith traditions that we can practice on. We can practice the love, the activist, hopeful, creative, courageous, radical kind of love that is required right now. We have that. 1 minute? Okay. And the last one then, I'll skip straight on. We're conscious of our limits and that we need to work together. There's a certain liberation in knowing that the work has to continue beyond us. We don't have to fix it all, but we have to try, and we have to try, and we have to work together. So I'll stop right there because I think that that's enough, and everybody already said so many other things, but I'm very eager to hear the rest of it.
Thank you very much, dear Jocelyn. We wish to have more time to reflect and to dialogue and to share after this moment of reflection and prayer in the last session of this special gathering. Now I have the pleasure to introduce to all of you my colleague, Nicolas Paz. Nicolas is the director of the Catholic Nonviolence Initiative. Nicolas is a mediator who has worked in conflict mediation and nonviolence with families, communities, officers, and non-commissioned officers of the Army, police, firefighters, technicians of social services, social educators, lawyers, school teachers, NGO teams, hospital staff, politicians, and civil society organizations in Spain. He teaches at the Pontifical University of Salamanca, and he is a member of the European Radicalization Awareness Network to Prevent Violent Extremism and of the European Academy of Religion. Nico, it's a pleasure to have you today.
Well, thank you all. It's really an honor to be here today, representing part of the whole family of Pax Christi in this celebration, and with all your company. Thanks a lot. Well, I want to present first the Catholic Nonviolence Initiative. It's a program of Pax Christi International, whose main goal is to move active nonviolence into the heart of the Catholic Church by showing how nonviolence is at the heart of the gospel, how nonviolence strategies and tools are effective, and how the Church can contribute to a profound change in the world through its teaching, its dissemination, its practice, and its witness. Today is a very special anniversary. Not many organizations can claim to be 80 years old, especially when you talk about peace building and nonviolence. But at the same time, Pax Christi is not looking to its past, but it's looking to its past to try to honor that legacy, but making it constantly alive today, looking towards the future. As you can see on the logo, building bridges for tomorrow. I mean, this is a birthday, not to look for what we did, but looking on what we did to build present and future. And we try to do that, or to contribute to that, offering a vision for a more peaceful and nonviolent world. Today, we are also, on this anniversary, we are also on the anniversary of the 12th year of the pontificate of Pope Francis. And I was thinking about that before preparing this speech today, that maybe it's not a coincidence, maybe it's a prophetic call, a kind of sign. Because violence is today, as you all were mentioning, it's really a deep concern in our society. And it's really appealing that we are celebrating the 80th anniversary at the same time that here in Europe, where Pax Christi was born, we are now talking about rearming Europe. It's kind of a paradox. People and communities all over the world experience very different kinds of violence at very different type of levels, from the domestic violence to wars and armed conflicts. My experience as a mediator shows that at the end, what is really deep about violence is that it's something embodied, something lived. You can be in an armed conflict, but that's not the real violence you suffer, but you suffer other kinds of violence, like domestic violence. And that's what it's really worrying you. But what it's also true is that violence is dynamic, so it's contagious. But the good thing is that peace and non-violence is also as contagious as violence. Sometimes we forget. Pope Francis claimed that in the most local and ordinary situation and in the international order, may non-violence become the hallmark of our decisions, our relationships and our actions, and indeed of political life in all its forms. And he expresses it even more clearly when he were talking to Latin American university students, and he was saying, we need the prophecy of nonviolence. Well, here, as the Catholic Nonviolence Initiative, we are trying to contribute to make that prophecy real by, as you were mentioning, trying to practice hope, but also trying to organize hope. We need to build movement. We need to organize people. We need to organize that hope. And nonviolence offers us the effective strategies, the effective tools. We know how to do it. What we need is more people. What we need is more investment on that. Pax Christi as a whole family is has been trying to make and keep making this real every day in so many different contexts and realities in our world. Pax Christi has been trying to bring those experiences from the grassroots and the peripheries to the center, and it is still our goal and our commitment. So when we refer to this question about the contributions and the challenges of faith-based organizations to peace building, I cannot only mention this 80-year history and legacy of real practice affecting the lives of so many people and communities, but also the present and future of this contribution. Pax Christi celebrates its anniversary without stopping walking, building bridges to a more peaceful and nonviolent future. And despite the dark times that seems to surround us today, this path is walked with many other organizations, both faith-based and secular ones still today. So let's look for the future. And I want to share our small contribution to that future. Last 29th of September, Pax Christi launched its Catholic Institute for Nonviolence in Rome. Its mission is to make nonviolence research, resources, and experience more accessible to the Catholic Church, leaders, communities, and institutions in order to deepen the Catholic understanding of and commitment to the practice of gospel nonviolence. And through that contribution also to a deeper interreligious dialogue and lived community faith-based and nonviolence. In fact, different religious practices contribute and shape nonviolence actions across the world and in different faiths. These varied spiritual and religious practices are developed by ordinary people at very different levels, including everyday practices, both individually and collectively. We need all that experience, all that knowledge, and overall, all that energy. And on the side of the contributions, I think it's good to think about how some kind of secular approaches to peace and nonviolence have limited somehow our own epistemology, but also our own practice of nonviolence and peace. So faith-based organizations can contribute to that, because sometimes we forget that peace and nonviolence is something that is very rooted in spiritual and religious practice of the people. It was not a secular concept. It was something that was born on the very deep communities at faith level. So it's important to bring that back to the conversation, because we need that experience, we need that practice, we need that knowledge. Faith-based organizations bring nonviolent social, moral, and spiritual resources to the organization of hope. They bring a deep experience of grassroots practice and a deep transformative approach to relationships and conflicts. Tracy was explaining that, she was really explaining a nonviolent approach to peace based on that spirituality. And Elvis was even reminding us how nonviolence starts, that it's recognizing our own violence. These organizations bring stories, narratives, symbols, prayer practices, rituals of healing, reintegration processes, mediation, meditation. They play key roles in the broader psychosocial recovery and transformation of people and communities. The religious, cultural, and symbolic dimension of nonviolent practices form an integral part of all real process of just peace. It is therefore very important that those elements form part of the resources brought to every peace-building process. Faith-based organizations help provide emotional and spiritual support to war-affected communities, holding a personal and communitarian transformation that radiates outward and affects peace on every level, from the interpersonal to the international world. Faith-based organizations mobilize those resources, material, human, and spiritual, and they have a special role to play in many conflicts through the ability to extend their reach into a very wide range of sectors of society. They bring mobilization, socialization, integration, and spirituality. In fact, coming to the challenges, one of the challenges of this organization is, for instance, that the underutilized role of religious leadership. Many times, peace efforts have often excluded religious figures, leading to limited trust and ineffective outcomes. Spiritual practices have also been excluded from negotiation and mediation process, and even from nonviolent direct action. This is not only, as I was saying, an epistemological limitation, but mainly a limitation for practical peace and nonviolent possibilities to be effective. Religious identities and practices deeply shape societies, making the involvement of religious leaders and faith-based organizations indispensable for meaningful dialogue and peace building. Nonviolence offers a vital pathway for bridging the divide between religious and secular perspectives, and it offers effective strategies, tools, and resources to organize that hope, mobilizing the whole people of God and building bridges among faiths. From Pax Christi Catholic Nonviolence Initiative, we hope to contribute to that while working together with many others. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, my dear Nicholas. So now our last speaker, Father Paul Lansu. It is a pleasure to have him today with us. Paul is the first person that I met in Pax Christi. It was 20 years ago. Paul is a board member of Pax Christi International and is a parish priest in Antwerp, Belgium. And Paul has been an active member of the Pax Christi International Working Group on Just Peace in the Holy Land. And he has been very near to this region. He has visited since his ordination in 1981, so he's a guide for us in not only Holy Land, but in many, many issues. And thanks, Paul, for being here. The floor is yours.
Thank you. In our 80 years history, we have faced many challenges. But today, the peace movement is having a particularly challenging time. Today's challenges are more disturbing and urgent than before. Two historical dates in recent times have hit me hard. The 24th of February 2022, Ukraine-Russia war, and the 7th of October 2023, Hamas-Israel war. This then coupled with an undermining of international law, international humanitarian law, weak and powerless diplomacy, powerful leaders in the world who provoke and walk all over little people, the conflicting interests in the West, USA versus European Union, etc., phasing out development aid and cooperation, ramping up the war narrative by politicians, by the media, and by many academics, drastic increase in military budgets and investment in the war industry, militarization of our societies in the erosion of civil society dismissed as naive and foolish idiots. We are moving towards a different world order, which is still unknown. And the underlying code of conduct is me or us first. It is the law of the jungle. Human dignity and human rights are at stake. A new culture of war is being initiated to us all. So the question is, how do you endure in such a negative climate and the innumerable atrocities everywhere? In what way turn our discouragement around? How to turn the culture of war back into a culture of peace? That is the question. Christians and all people of good will should constantly inspire, animate, and encourage each other to safeguard the dignity of human beings. This requires constant nourishment and re-energizing, searching for meaning and giving meaning, also from the biblical tradition. From the Gospel, we are asked to regularly evaluate and interpret the signs of the times. What is currently happening in the world, and what is its deeper meaning? Always daring to ask the question, what does our society look like today, and what must or can be done to make people within that society more and better human beings, together with everyone else? Catholic social thinking or teaching provides a critical framework from where to search values and norms and to contribute to justice, peace, and the care of the creation. The social ideas of the Church, which have developed over decades, offer an almost inexhaustible richness of points of reference for peace work, especially concerning the four most prominent international areas of attention: peace, security, human rights, development, and climate. And within the broader political framework, international law and especially international humanitarian law are applicable. For us, nonviolence is a driving force of our peace work. And it's maybe worth mentioning at least two encyclicals. First, there is the 1963 Pacem in Terris, of Peace on Earth, which is for Pax Christi International the Magna Carta for our movement. The Magna Carta of the global Christian peace movement is Pacem in Terris. An orderly society can live in peace by respecting and striving for and realizing four key concepts: truth, justice, love, and freedom. And the role of an international world order, in this case organized and guaranteed by the United Nations, is of immense importance in the prevention, in the control, and the settlements of armed conflicts. The increasing number of threats with weapons of mass destruction can, for instance, not last forever. A nuclear war would automatically entail collective suicide. Pacem in terris, but also Populorum Progressio, 1967. Progress of the People gave a strong impulse to the importance of development cooperation. Development became the new name for peace. Social justice has international dimensions, and development and justice are primary conditions for populations to live in peace. The social question is an international issue, and to this rich social thinking of the Church, Pope Francis has also added Laudato Si, and of course also Fratelli Tutti. Now, Catholic social thinking has the dignity of everyone as its point of departure, human dignity. Each person is unique. Living in solidarity entails striving for the common good, or the bonum commune, together, serving the common good. Society should develop in harmony with every person and his or her environment, and to everybody's content. Christians are mediators by stimulating dialogue and contact and by working inclusively. Each person is part of society. Also, building bridges. Dialogue is aimed at the advancement of justice, peace, and brotherhood and human dignity. Particularly in times of tension and conflict, openness and dialogue with others can contribute to a better society. To come closer to another, we must first listen to the other. And this listening is accompanied by humility and entails that the other can question you. No human being is worth more than another is. People are equal. The never-ending effort of people to live together with others and to form a true society means that one person's good life contributes to someone else's good life. Helping one another is essential to this process. Among other things, it is about care, about well-being, charity, compassion, solidarity, and assistance toward each other. Sometimes it goes beyond that, and one has the duty to help people in need, also the duty to help the unknown people in need. This then often leads to dilemmas. Where lie the boundaries of human or individual responsibility, and where begins the state's responsibility? Reconciliation is our key concept. A key task of the Christian peace movement is the restoration. Reconciliare is restoration of broken relations. And this reconciliatory work must take place on all levels, individually, within the own family and society, but also between population groups, nations, and religions. Reconciliation is only possible when the various parties acknowledge fault and are ashamed of past mistakes, ask for and receive forgiveness. Injustice remains injustice, and that is something we should point out. Fault is something we must acknowledge and confess to. We shall respect and return everyone's dignity. Willingness to reconciliation is a turning point. A certain measure of empathy is needed to imagine someone else's pain, hurt, and mistakes. This is a reciprocal process. Reconciliation is not possible without having first put yourself in another's shoes. Peace work needs also public space. The purpose of peace work and the role of civil society are of essential importance in an open democracy. Every citizen has the right or even obligation to ask critical questions and to make a constructive contribution to the improvement of society. That is why citizens ask the political realm to protect human dignity through the advancement of human rights. An open or authentic democracy has human dignity as its point of departure, as well as respect for human rights and concern for the general well-being. People and the political community especially have the duty to protect fellow human beings and to prevent disaster, to prevent misfortune and conflicts. Living truthfully is of essential importance to an authentic democracy. Free press and freedom of speech are therefore important to find truth and to take good decisions based on that truth. In the end, people should be true to their conscience in all their acts. That means that no one can be forced to act in opposition to his or her conscience, especially not in religious affairs. Drawing from spiritual roots. Well, as a faith-based peace movement, Pax Christi's work is based on a commitment to prayer and spirituality, to study and action for peace. It strives for dialogue and cooperation with churches, with non-governmental organizations, and movements working in the same field, whether they are Christians from other denominations, Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist, or non-religious groups. Pax Christi's keen sense of spirituality is inspired by the original motivation of the movement, namely reconciliation, where opposing parties come together to create a new relationship. The peace spirituality behind our advocacy and campaigning is founded upon the preferential option for the person, the whole person, created and loved by God. Options for the poor and the weakest. Such advocacy urges us to accompany and serve those who suffer and are victims of selfishness and unjust structures, and at the same time to be present where decisions are made to wield a transformative influence on the complex issues of those injustices. Listening to the victims of violence is the starting point of our methodology. The starting point of our advocacy is God, our desire to love and serve God. Our goal is to build a just society based on gospel values. We hold the conviction that God is the beginning of our advocacy and the end, and is with us every step of the way. Expressing solidarity with affected partners is necessary, but that is not enough. By listening and analyzing the positions of victims and partners living and working in conflict areas, the network of Pax Christi International can be mobilized for effective advocacy action in a globalized solidarity. We call for a costly solidarity and firm collective action. Networking for peace is a very demanding but essential way to effectively contribute to peace, justice, and reconciliation through globalized solidarity. You achieve change by working together with others. Advocacy is political action with and by the marginalized executed to amplify their voices within the democratic framework of nation-states and international governmental bodies. This necessarily involves mass mobilization on certain issues, strengthening collective bargaining, and democratic and non-violent struggles and campaigns. Spirituality for advocacy focuses on a new world order. We are looking forward for a world governed by a new set of values. And this alternative vision would be more people-centered, more ecologically respectful, more concerned for the disadvantaged, more socially just, and more spiritually enriching. Our advocacy is grounded upon fundamental ethical convictions. It is a necessary element of the search for justice and peace, and these convictions arise at two levels. One of foundational moral principles, solidarity, economic and social justice, and the other of juridical principles, national laws, international norms and standards. And finally, advocacy entails two interrelated elements, prophetic and pragmatic advocacy. Advocacy must be prophetic, speak the truth, confront injustice and build a more just and dignified life together. Prophetic advocacy holds up some ideal state of affairs. Even if this is not readily attainable, the ideal must be stated to serve as a compass for the direction of current policy. Advocacy is a prophetic activity in which we accompany and support our membership who struggle for justice and peace. Pragmatic advocacy seeks certain measurable, incremental changes in specific policies or practices. The prophetic stance can always be criticized as naive or impractical. The pragmatic approach can be condemned as compromised or short-sighted. In any case, discernment is required. Discernment That's what we learned from the Jesuits, I think. Discernment needs to be applied to our own capacity to manage negative or hostile reactions, to our own attitude toward conflict and to our possible enemies. Our world, churches and religions need a movement like Pax Christi International. May the merciful God bless our entire Pax Christi International movement, its member organizations and its many members with wisdom, perseverance, self-confidence and courage. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, dear Father Paul. And as a quick closing of this, I would present some ideas that we have heard today in this rich dialogue. Thank you very much to all of you. So how to confront this violent context, how to see these negative climate challenges as all. It could discourage our work. So how to move from a culture of war to a culture of peace. So some ideas shared by our main people. What counts is the practice of peace, and it needs this practice of peace public spaces, the importance for creating scenarios and conditions for peace. Peace efforts, they should be linked to advocacy work to influence decision makers, amplifying local voices and convictions at two levels: moral principles, solidarity, and others, and judicial principles. And the issue of the advocacy could be and should be prophetic and at the same time pragmatic from our faith approaches. Faith is a practice, not a remedy. We confront that dehumanization, so we have to move to a global ethic, and having the human dignity at the center of our work. Each person is part of the society. So how we listen to how a church has been influenced by colonization. So colonization has happened also within faith as a way to influence and control others. We have to strengthen our capacity to listen to the communities, victims and others. So it needs time, dialogue, and critical thinking. We are created for love, so we can model real, effective solidarity and control, and more listening with them. We have practice, we have expertise, so the practice is love in action, so the life together requires empathy, solidarity, and compassion. We reflect about the issue of reconciliation, those efforts to build right relations that are fed by our spirituality. The practice, we should practice hope and organize hope. So key in this is the discernment. Nonviolence is very rooted in our spiritual basis and mobilizes hope. And the need for work, it is especially key at this moment of these concerns globally. We need to work together for a new world, for a new order, for a new set of values. So thank you very much to all of our special speakers for this rich reflection today. So applause. So I invite you to 5 minutes just for all our logistics for our moment of prayer and reflection. So please stretch your legs for some minutes just to organize our moment of prayer and reflection. Yes. But, yeah.
Not easy.
Excuse me, can we organize in circles, please? Can we organize in circles, please? Can you organize in circles? Thank you.
Hello everyone. For those that are here in presence, in person, if you can already take a seat in circle, please. For those that are here in presence in the chapel, if you can take a chair and seat, because we are starting soon. Thank you very much for taking the time also to wrap up probably the interesting conversations you were having for those in person. And for those that are following us online, I think we can say hello to all of them. The camera is there if you like. We have quite a few people following us today. And we hope that with this moment that we are living here in person, we are able also to connect with all the people that are following us from all over the world. We thought about this moment as a moment of reflection, gathering more on our spiritual aspects, no matter what your faith and what your beliefs are. The overall idea is to be here and try to ground ourselves a bit more, also connecting to what we have heard until now and try to brainstorm a little bit, hopefully by living here with a different hope, hopefully stronger. I will give just a technical information before we start, mainly related to the outside, what's happening outside. So right now the street is blocked. So if by any chance you need to leave, just be informed that you need to go.
You cannot. My brother is in the European Commission building, and they have you cannot leave. Suspicious item detected. Council entrance should see that avoid the area.
Yes, they left this street from what the police told us. So if you go out, you just need to go to the right side. So on the left, you cannot leave. And on the right, you will probably find police, but just tell them you need to leave. They will probably let you out. So just a technical information in case you face some blockage when you leave. So we will now start this moment. I will leave first the floor to Bishop Mark, that is the co-president of Pax Christi International. He will introduce this moment to us, and then I will guide the group step by step, introducing every different person that is gonna bring us in their own rituals, in their whole faith. So,
good evening. Martha has given me authorization to reflect in French. L'enjeu de ce 80e anniversaire est de maîtriser les outils pour être acteur de paix et de réconciliation. Des outils forgés en 80 années au feu des conflits. Notre objectif en ce 80e anniversaire veut être augmenter les capacités d'être acteur de paix et de réconciliation. Un exercice auquel nous voulons consacrer ces 80 ans, c'est de valoriser l'expérience historique de Pax Christi et y déchiffrer des valeurs qui peuvent guider nos actions. C'est identifier les ressources intellectuelles et spirituelles qui ont fait vivre le mouvement et lui ont donné un sens. Nous partons d'un postulat. Chaque vie est un foisonnement. Elle est une terre blessée, une terre meurtrie, une terre abîmée, une terre défigurée, d'où nous sommes appelés à faire naître une vie nouvelle. L'Écriture dit « La moisson est abondante, mais les ouvriers sont peu nombreux. » Pax Christi en fait l'expérience avec ses organisations membres venant de pays qui aspirent à la réconciliation comme la RDC, l'Ukraine, le Cameroun et d'autres pays, mais aussi comme notre propre société européenne. À chacun est donné un environnement, des circonstances, des sensibilités pour aller à la rencontre des autres et oser la réconciliation. La question est celle des moyens à saisir pour construire une société réconciliée. Les moyens sont ceux que nous propose l'Évangile. Le non à la violence, la fraternité, le dialogue, la prière. Ce programme nous est proposé pour ce 80e anniversaire, un programme universel qui veut rejoindre toutes les populations en grande souffrance. Merci.
Thank you. Now we will leave the floor to Maudilia. I will introduce you a bit. Voy a hacer una pequeña introducción, muy pequeña. Maudilia Lopez is from an indigenous community in Guatemala. She's gonna introduce us with a spiritual ritual. There will also not be translation for this, as we want to be all languages, everybody's languages. So te dejo el micrófono y puedes empezar.
Tal vez sí es bueno que me traduzcas, voy a hacer. Sí. Un saludo de parte de mi comunidad Mayamam de Guatemala.
A greeting from the community where Maudilia comes from, the Maudiamam.
Nuestra espiritualidad en nuestro calendario, hoy es el Día de la Justicia. Se representa a través de la serpiente emplumada, Dios en la tierra y Dios en el cielo.
So according to our spirituality and to our calendar, today it's a day where we connect with the spirituality of with the justice linked with and symbolized by the figure of a snake with wings, feathers, with feathers.
Y los 4 elementos de la Madre Tierra, que es el fuego, la Madre Tierra, el viento y el agua.
And the first symbol of our Mother Earth, that are the fire, the Mother Earth, the water and the air.
Y nuestro compromiso de cada uno de ustedes y mío es proteger, es defender, es cuidar nuestra casa común.
And our commitment of us all and of her is to protect, take care, and commit to Mother Earth as our common and shared home.
Y entonces en este 80 años de aniversario de Pax Christi, para acoger este momento tan importante, vamos a hacer un momento de silencio y conectarnos con estos 4 elementos y Jesús en medio de nuestra vida, en la vida de nuestros pueblos.
And in this, celebrating these 80 years of Pax Christi International, we all collect ourselves in this moment of silence, reconnecting with the 4 elements that she described before, and also with Jesus Christ that is at the center, that is the central element.
Y entonces voy a pedir favor a Marta Inés junto con el obispo para que enciendan la luz roja. Puede traerlo aquí, Marta Inés. Y ya y ya todo lo demás en silencio, nos levantamos silenciosamente para encender todas las velas, uno por uno, voluntarios para encender nuestra vela.
So now we are lighting the candle. She's asking for all of us to stand up all together and just unite in this moment. and to turn on the candles when. For those of you that want to get involved, you can join and turn on the candle.
Nuestra espiritualidad, Mayamam, nos invita a calentarnos del fuego de Dios.
Our spirituality, Matamam, is inviting us to take warmth in God.
Entonces, mientras yo hago mi oración, todos se conectan para conectarnos con Dios y haciendo el símbolo, así como estamos calentándonos del fuego.
So while Madilia is going to do a ritual, she's asking us to connect in the warmth of this fire by putting our hands like this, like if we are warming from the fire.
Nan Dios, tat Dios, tan mankiach, tan machuch. Chonta ton kchwinkala, chonta ton kipumala, chonta ton stalbel, chonta ton kchwinkal nikashhaltot kyakil twitchoch. Ay kanchak nang ton kup huntbanel, ton tabant hunchuch, ton tabant hun ipumal, tocha ktanman, tocha chachak tumel, otoy twitchoch lo. Onza kipumala ton tklet kan Tunt klet kanan George, tunt klet kik, tunt kolet kchua. Onka unstalbal toch kchwinkala, tumib ahak koha. Nim ko ilna kelet wits George lo, nim ko bioch schal bach nog tunt bach, kokolon kanan George. Onka kipumala, onka stalbal, onka hun chi, onka hun chuch, toch chunklala. Qad kiwlen nana Dios, qad kiwlen tata Dios. Tan maqaq, tan machoch, tan maqiq, tan ma'a. Qad kihaquqi, qad kiwlen khun qix, kiwlen qakuxi ayaq qxhalala loqitelu, qad kiwlen qachkoma tocht kiqilmach, qad kihaquqa tocht kiqil ambel ay nana ay tata. Gloria al Padre, al Hijo y al Espíritu Santo, como era en el principio, ahora y siempre, por los siglos de los siglos. Amén.
Thank you very much. Now you can decide what to do. I want to see to stand up. And now we'll pass the floor to Father Emmanuel, if you would like. I can. The microphone is pretty long. Can give it to you.
Thank you. So thank you. Julia asked me to share with you an object or a symbol that is important for me, and also maybe to share an experience, a spiritual experience that might be helpful also to you. So one of the important spiritual experiences in my life has been the way of Saint James, the Camino de Santiago. was very happy when I came here that also the previous director of this chapel, Father Sowa, was also a person in love with the Way of St. James. He did it quite a lot of times in his life, and from different places. As you know, the Way of St. James ends in a place in Spain, northern Spain, northwestern Spain, called Galicia. There's a city called Santiago. Santiago is St. James, Santiago. And it's a city where, according to tradition, the tomb of the Apostle James was found in the 9th century. And from then, a lot of pilgrimage started. A lot of pilgrims throughout the ages, mainly the Middle Ages, went walking from different places in Europe to that tomb, to that place, to Santiago de Compostela. And it's not only just one path, there are many ways to go to Santiago de Compostela. The important thing is getting there. I did it a few times with my parish, with friends, alone as well, in different ways. One can do it all going a month, more than a month, 33 days and going through, all northern Spain to get to Santiago. One can do it in small times, in small pieces, dividing it. So I did it in many ways, and for me it's been a very important experience. I think that walking, meeting people, having time to think, being with nature is really also a symbol of life, of walking, of going towards somewhere. So this for me has been a very important experience. One of the symbols of the Way of St. James is the shell. As you know, maybe some of you know it. So I brought one of the shells I've used to do the Way of St. James. So I'll put it on. And then I found in one of the times I did the Way of St. James, I stopped in a place called Albergue, that is where the pilgrims stop, and it was in a place called Puente de la Reina. It's a very nice place. It's a very nice place in the Camino de Santiago, because there various paths join, and then they continue straight to the French Way. And being there, I read the Beatitudes of the Pilgrim. We don't know who wrote them, but they were there in the wall, and they really impressed me. So I'm going to read them, and this is what I wanted to share with you, because I think this might be helpful in some way also to you. They were in Spanish, so I'll read them in Spanish, so Spanish people can understand, and I'll read them in English. Okay, so one and one. So there are 10 Beatitudes of the Pilgrim. The first one. Bienaventurado eres, peregrino, si descubres que el camino te abre los ojos a lo que no se ve. In English, blessed are you, pilgrim, if you discover that the camino opens your eyes to what cannot be seen. The second one. Bienaventurado eres, peregrino, si lo que más te preocupa no es llegar, sino llegar con los otros. Blessed are you, pilgrim, if what concerns you most is not arriving, but arriving with others. Bienaventurado eres, peregrino, cuando contemplas el camino y lo descubres lleno de nombres y de amaneceres. Blessed are you, pilgrim, when you contemplate the camino and find it full of names and sunrises. The fourth. Bienaventurado eres, peregrino, porque has descubierto que el auténtico camino comienza cuando se acaba. Blessed are you, pilgrim, because you have discovered that the true camino begins when it ends. The fifth. Bienaventurado eres, peregrino, si tu mochila se va vaciando de cosas y tu corazón no sabe dónde colgar tantas emociones. Blessed are you, pilgrim, if your backpack empties of things and your heart doesn't know where to hang so many emotions. The sixth. Bienaventurado eres, peregrino, si descubres que un paso atrás para ayudar a otro vale más que 100 hacia adelante sin mirar a tu lado. So blessed are you, pilgrim, if you discover that one step back to help another is worth 100 steps forward without looking to your side. The seventh. Bienaventurado eres, peregrino, cuando te faltan palabras para agradecer todo lo que te sorprende en cada recodo del camino. Blessed are you, pilgrim, when you lack words to express your gratitude for everything that surprises you at every turn along the way. The eighth. Bienaventurado eres, peregrino, si buscas la verdad y haces de tu camino una vida y de tu vida un camino, en busca de quién es el camino, la verdad y la vida. Blessed are you, pilgrim, if you seek the truth and make your path alive with your life path, in search of the one who is the way, the truth, and the life. Ninth. Bienaventurado eres, peregrino, si en el camino te encuentras contigo mismo y te regalas un tiempo sin prisas para no descuidar la imagen de tu corazón. Blessed are you, pilgrim, if on the journey you find yourself and give yourself time without haste so as to not neglect the image of your heart. And the last one, the 10th. Bienaventurado eres, peregrino, si descubres que el camino tiene mucho de silencio, y el silencio de oración, y la oración de encuentro con el Padre que te espera. Blessed are you, pilgrim, if you discover that the journey contains much silence, and silence prayer, and prayer encounter with the Father that awaits you. So, when I read these, I found them very inspiring. Very inspiring. They give a bit the spirit of the Camino, of the way of St. James. Josiane also did a part of the Camino, and maybe some of you also did it. Or other pilgrimages. Pilgrimages like a bit a sign of our lives. We're walking together, looking to our sides, and at the end, the Father, the Eternal Father, awaits us. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Chloe, I will try. So if you can, will be easier. I will leave now the floor to Chloe Jamali. You will introduce a bit, right, yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is Chloe and I work at the Baha'i International Community. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. My name is Chloe and I work at the Baha'i International Community, and we're very grateful to Pax Christi for the work that they do alongside each other and other faith-based organizations. So congratulations for 80 years of hard work. It's a very special and fitting time at the moment because for the first time in many decades, Lent, the Baha'i fast, and Ramadan all intersect. And so 3 religious traditions overlapping this year makes it a unique and special moment to come together in collective reflection. So really when we look at the state of the world, it's easy to feel despair, with the condition of the world growing more desperate, divisions also more severe, and escalating tensions within and between societies affect us all very deeply. However, world unity and peace are attainable and can be achieved ultimately through the unreserved acceptance that humanity is one. The vast array of relations among nations and within them all need to be reimagined in this light. But humanity is gripped by a crisis of identity, as various peoples and groups struggle to define themselves and their place in the world and how they should act. Without a vision of shared identity and common purpose, we can fall into competing ideologies. Endless variations of us and them define group identities ever more narrowly and in contrast to each other. Over time, this splintering into divergent interest groups has weakened the cohesion of society itself. And these conceptions about our identity obscure the truth that humanity is one, and that we are all on one common journey in which we are all protagonists. And so in the context of this world in which we are currently living in, the role of every individual in contributing to a process that fosters peace takes on great precedence and urgency and deeper meaning, and encourages us to continue in our every action to foster unity, harmonize different elements, and nurture in every selfless heart a love for all humanity, and uphold our commitment to this justice and peace. And so with this vision of shared identity and common purpose in mind, I would like to share with you a quotation from the Baha'i writings. It says, "That one indeed is a man who today dedicated himself to the service of the entire human race. Blessed and happy is he that ariseth to promote the best interest of the peoples and kindreds of the world. It is not for him to pride himself who loveth his country, but rather for him who loveth the whole world. The earth is but one country, and mankind its citizens." Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to ask my colleagues to come closer. I would love to throw the microphone away, but I don't know if Father Bern will agree with me to do that. So we'll just take this. Give me 1 second. Forgive me, Paul. Before we go ahead with the closing, I leave the floor on the floor. I'm very sorry.
The symbol I brought with me for this prayer service is the icon of Pax Christi International. It is called the Christ is our reconciliation. It was mentioned in our contributions, but reconciliation is at the heart of our movement and of our spirituality. Now, every 5 years we have a World Assembly, bringing together all the member organizations from all over the world. More than 100 people come together. And in 1999, for the first time in our history, we went outside of Europe. All the time it was in Europe, but then in 1999 we went to Jordan, Amman first, and also to Jerusalem. So we had a World Assembly in Amman and in Jerusalem, where we elected a new international president. It was His Beatitude Michel Sabah, who is still alive and well doing. He's now 93, the former, the Patriarch Emeritus of Jerusalem. And on that occasion of our World Assembly, we received a huge icon, which was painted in the monastery of St. John in the desert, near Jerusalem. And the icon bears the title, Christ is our reconciliation. And this theme, and I have 2 copies with me, you can pass it if you want. This theme is reflected in many ways in the 12 images on the icon. It is especially the 2 large images are Esau's reconciliation with Jacob and the heavenly Jerusalem, and then the 10 small images are usually saints, like, for instance, Saint Francis. Now, just to be brief, this icon is just like that, and In 2001, in February 2001, in the midst of the Second Intifada, I was able to bring that huge thing with me, not in my pocket, but in the plane from Ben Gurion Airport to Brussels. And since then it has been touring around Europe, just bringing people together. It went to Germany, it went to the Netherlands, to the Flanders, it went to France, it went to the last couple of years, especially in England and Wales. And we hope to have it back in Firenze in November to see that. But it invites groups to work around the spirituality of the icon and just to bring people together and discuss and search for reconciliation amongst themselves, but also as a tool for peace action. So I just wanted to mention this as a contribution. The title is Christ is our reconciliation.
Thank you, Paul. Sorry very much. Indeed, it's a huge icon. So we will probably also share the link where you can see the picture. So that's why it's not with us today. It's kind of this big, correct? Much more. So yeah. Andrew knows best the size, but we will try our best to make it travel. So now we go towards the conclusion. We will share a poem, together from the Pax Christi International Secretariat. This is our way to conclude this moment. After this, don't leave immediately. We'll give you some more details, and also we will share probably some thank you notes after this. So the poem is called Peace. It's from Gabriela Mistral. Peace, so delicate, so light, like a whisper in the night, like a bird that takes its flight.
Peace, so fragile, yet so bright. It is the child's laughter, pure and free, the quiet of the morning sea.
The bond that ties humanity, the hope that sets the spirit free, let it bloom in every heart.
Let it heal what's torn apart. Let it be our work of art. Peace, the thread that we impart. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much. We hope that with this conclusion, we still have the buffet downstairs, so don't worry. But for those that are online with us, unfortunately, we don't have food for you to send over. So we conclude this moment here to bring all this warmth that we gathered today. It's a moment for celebration for us, but we hope that this celebration for humanity, unfortunately the current time don't give us so much hope to celebrate, but we hope that these small candles, these small lights, they will keep burning in our hearts and make us feel a bit of warmth whenever we feel like that we are in a bit of a despair. We want to thank you for taking the time today, especially to come here. I'm not sure if you're able to leave, but Father Bern will let us know in case we can be hosted here for the night. But we hope that you can follow us for this year. I'm particularly grateful for all the people that joined today, that took the chance also to speak, to reserve their time, to share not only what they have on their hearts, but also what they have in their brains. We are very, very grateful for this. We are also very grateful. I will do just a special mention to Liz. She's there. She was part of the Secretariat just 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, more or less. So she was the one starting, the whole dissemination for this event, but also for all the year of Pax Christi. So we are also grateful for that. And I don't know if Marta Ines would like to lead us to the conclusion. And just to say a few small notes, then downstairs we have time to chit-chat and exchange a little bit more.
Just to reinforce our gratitude with all the people that has been working very hard for 80 years, Some of them we will share with this year gratitude, a message, a certification of gratitude for their families, for those who are not here in this world. And we continue working, but not working alone. We continue working with you, with so many people that are encouraging us, the work that they do in every space, representing Pax Christi International, no matter if it is a member or an associate or a friend or a stakeholder network. But we continue in this working for peace, for justice, with all our energies. As Father Paul has said, and never than today, the world needs our work for peace and justice. So thank you very much. We continue.
Just a short update. I don't know if you realized it, but there's a police operation going around here. Some danger, whatever. They won't say a word. Half an hour ago it was full of police. Now they are mostly gone, but we are still kind of blocked. And the only exit, so if you want to leave, you have to go up to Billiard. So the way to the metro was blocked up to now. Maybe it changes, but you can go up, and then when you go there to the right, you come to the metro in other ways. We don't know what's going on, but you can leave without a problem.
You can have a snack in the middle.
Now there's the question whether trade packages are common or not, and trying to find out.
May I?
Danger, but we're in the
Okay. Hopefully the cocktail and meals, it would be enough to resist the police action. So please come here for the picture to the group. Please come here. Be careful with the candles, please.